Welcome to Heartcast, a podcast of Hospice of the Red River Valley. I'm your host, Dave Nillis.
Jana Kuntz is a grief specialist with Hospice of the Red River Valley. Jana, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dave.
Jana, how do you say goodbye to a loved one?
Goodbyes are hard. You know, when someone is dying, when they've been going through this process, a lot of times we need to say goodbye, but it's a hard thing to do. So saying goodbye can take time. I would encourage people to not take too much time, so they run out of time. Do what you can. Prepare early if you can, plan what you'd like to say to them. A lot of times people need to say things like, I love you, and it's okay to go, or things like that.
Why is it so important to say goodbye to someone who's in your life that may be dying?
You're not going to see them again, at least for a while. If you have a faith base, you believe you will see them again. But, you need to say goodbye. We need to say goodbye to people even when they're visiting us at different times. And so when it's death that's going to take someone from you, you absolutely need to say goodbye. It helps you go forward, I think.
Jana, what are some common themes you've heard when people are saying goodbye?
Well, a lot of times people need to tell people they love them. Sometimes forgiveness is needed, and so people need to either ask for forgiveness or give forgiveness to the one who is dying. And those are very important things, I think, for people to have, not what we would call closure, but to be able to move forward in their grief journey after the person has died.
Jana, we've talked about how important it is to say goodbye to a loved one, but what if that person is maybe part of a complicated relationship, or you simply just feel uncomfortable having that conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dave. I think sometimes with those complicated relationships, we really need to especially get the person alone. We've maybe never told them we love them, or it's maybe never been reciprocated, and so it's important to be able to be alone with them to say these things. And, when you don't have an audience, sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's harder, maybe. But to be able to say the things you need to say. And those relationships, sometimes, again, you need forgiveness, or the person who's dying needs forgiveness. And maybe they won't ask for it. But that burden that gets lifted if you give it is so important. And so I think with a complicated relationship, maybe especially, it's very important to say goodbye.
At the end of life, sometimes your loved one might be nonverbal or seemingly unresponsive. How important is it to still have those conversations with that person?
It's very important. And it's hard. I've had people say to me, how do I talk to them? They're not talking back. Can they hear me? We believe the hearing is the last sense to go when someone is dying. And so to be able to sit with them and talk to them, sometimes a person can't make it, after a person has been unresponsive, and they can't make it until after that. And so they maybe need to talk to them on the telephone. And that's hard too, because they're not responding. And I've had people say, well, what do I say? Well, what would you say if they were responding? Say the same things. Tell them you love them. Tell them that if there's anything you've done wrong, you hope they forgive you. And if there's anything they've done wrong, that you forgive them. You say the exact same things as if they were responding to you. One thing you might need to say to someone is that it's okay to go. And when you think of that, you might think, well, it's not okay. It's not okay with me. I'm not going to be okay. So you can tell them, I understand that you need to go. And then that's all right. That gives them permission to let go. And that's very important to people. A lot of times that's what they need before they can let go.
Thank you for listening to Heartcast. For past episodes and more information about Hospice of the Red River Valley, visit hrrv.org.